I wanted to be at Texas State. I chose to be at Texas State. I'm from Texas. That was important to me. I always knew if the right guy got this job, you better watch out.
You better watch out. This is Win Now or Get Bent, episode 222. If you don't already know, I'm Keff Ciardello, coming to you on Wednesday, February 4th, and happy anniversary to the pod. That's right, this day 5 years ago, February 4th, 2021, was the inaugural episode of Win Now or Get Bent. We were audio only all the way back then. We were in the midst of a 6 straight losing seasons for the Texas State Bobcats. Still had 2 more years of Jake Spavital left before the first episode of this podcast. And here we are 5 years later. Shout out to you if you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/winnnoworgetbent. We have officially been a video podcast longer than an audio only podcast. At the very beginning, I was audio only before I teamed up with my guy, Zachary Webb, the Wizard, in 2023. Right after the 2022 season, we knew something big was coming up with GJ Kinney. We decided to team up and turn this pod into what it is today. I'm very proud of where it's come. I know it's got a lot further to go. Exciting times ahead. Who would have thought 5 years ago that we'd be talking about Texas State going to the Pac-12? I definitely wouldn't have thought that 5 years ago. I was optimistic about Texas State. I've always been optimistic about this place and what it could be. And if you galvanize this fan and you take sports seriously, specifically football, what this place could be, I've always believed in that. I didn't know it would come this far to the Pac-12. And now obviously the Pac-12 is a much different conference than it was 5 years ago. Different TV deal, different teams involved, and we're actually going to get to a lot of that today in this mailbag episode. Lots of great questions from you sickos out there. A lot of those questions pertaining to the Pac-12, which I thought was very fitting for this 5th anniversary pod. Let's talk about the future for Texas State. We won't spend too much time on the past over the past 5 years. We've got a bright future ahead for the Bobcats, a lot of great things coming up for Texas State. But as I said at the top, we have a mailbag episode. Lots of great questions from you. I needed your questions for this one. Today is actually National Signing Day. The genesis of this pod, the very beginning of it, was right before 2021, that signing class was going to sign on the dotted line and officially be in there and be Bobcats. I was like, I need a podcast. I want somewhere to go out there and be able to talk about this because National Signing Day is such a big day. And then 5 years later, and it's the biggest afterthought in the whole recruiting process. The big signing day was at the beginning of December. Then we had the transfer portal chaos in January where that window was open for 15 days. But today is National Signing Day. In Texas State, I didn't anticipate them to announce anybody. They did announce a couple players, which I do have for you. So 2 more players to add. That makes it 40 total for the 2026 class. More D linemen for this team. How about that? But who would have thought 5 years ago? But here we are. And I'm glad we have a mailbag because otherwise I would be scrambling for content. What would I be talking about with such a low National Signing Day in 2026. But I digress. We've got a big episode coming up. I'll get you an update on the new Bobcats coming in, some renovations for UFCU Stadium, and then we've got lots of questions from you sickos out there. Thank you to everyone who threw questions out there. Can't wait to answer them. But before we get there, this episode is brought to you by TGC LLC, the GalindoCollective.com. That's GALINDO, GalindoCollective.com. A team of professional consultants dedicated to helping others realize their business potential through people planning and practice. Their services cover a wide range of areas such as business strategy, marketing, human resources, and financial planning. If you own property or a business and want to maximize its profitability, contact TGC at thegalindocollective.com. That's GALINDO, thegalindocollective.com, and follow their social media platforms on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at TGC_LLC, and on Instagram and Facebook at the Galindo Collective. Shout out to my guy, Rick Galindo. 3 seasons he's been partnered up with Win Now or Get Bent. He's a true Tech State sicko, a Tech State grad himself. I cannot thank Rick Galindo enough. Go check them out again. That's thegalindocollective.com. Galindo, thegalindocollective.com. All right, let's get to these Bobcats. If you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/winnowergetbent. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. But you can see I revamped the office a little bit. The camera's a little higher. I'm a little bit more in the middle. I've got some decorations, as you can see right over here to my left. I've got the great Texas State hand sign right here. I'm going to add a little bit more. We need to do more with the lighting. Need some more lighting behind me. Going to change up the walls. Going to do a lot of stuff with here. So if you're more reason to check out our YouTube channel, you can see how I update it, what the new look looks like. I'm looking up to you a little bit more with this one. I like it a lot. Chime in. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think I should add to it. I have a great Texas State helmet that I can't figure out how to get in the background behind me perfectly. Because I've mentioned this before. My studio is a shed in my garage. I built the shed in my garage. That's what you're looking at here if you're seeing me in this room. I've got to figure out how to decorate it, make it look real nice, because this is my set home. You know, I was a bit of a nomad for a while with my two children. I did have my own office, and then it was quickly apparent that with two kids, you're going to need both spaces for them in those rooms. So I moved myself out to the garage out here, and I was like, is this going to stay? Is this where it'll be? What are we going to do? But I love it. I love it out here. It's my own little space. I can do whatever I want to it. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to chime in. I love when you guys suggest things. I know some of the questions are actually suggestions for segments coming up, and I appreciate that. More of that. I want to hear from y'all what kind of content you want. What do you want to see from Win Now or Get Bent going forward? Because we want to maximize it this year, baby. 2026, big year for the Bobcats. A little bit of cleanup before we get to questions, though. Two more JUCO linemen, defensive linemen for Texas State. As I mentioned earlier, today is National Signing Day. The fireworks of National Signing Day aren't there like they used to be, at least for this one. You know, it was pretty exciting at the beginning of December. The Bobcats brought in about 18, 19 high school and JUCO players, and they signed another 18, 19 more out of the transfer portal. Now they're adding two more. This is the last signing day. Don't anticipate them adding much more going into the spring because it is a different deal with just one transfer window, that one in January. It cleans it all up for them. But here's two more on the defensive lineman. First guy we have out of Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. I've seen a few good players come out of there to Texas State. Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College defensive lineman Jonathan Davis, and Butler Community College defensive lineman Devin Davis. I'm going to be honest, this news popped up right before I started recording. Haven't done a ton of research, so I don't know if they are related, but two Davises on the same day from two different colleges, though. So who knows? Davis, pretty common name. Not likely they are related. But Jonathan Davis, big guy out of Mississippi Gulf Coast, 6'5", 305 pounds, looking at that defensive tackle style body. And Devin Davis, 6'6", 250, looking more like a defensive end. If you listen to the last episode, 221, really long episode, went over 100 names of players where I thought they would shake up on the depth chart. Defensive line was a big one with 20 players that I listed off. On the offensive line, they had 22 players. Defensive line had 20. Now defensive line has 22. So we're looking at 44 players on the line of scrimmage for Texas State coming in. Adding more beef to this defensive line. I am excited about this defense, this new look defense with Will Wyndham, with Marcus Patton coming in, Coach G on the D-line, Coach Greg coming back. I'm pretty excited about what this defense has to offer. I know there's some questions about it, so I won't step on it too much. But there you go, two more. 40 players for the 2026 class. Incredible. And that's a small class. That's probably the smallest one G.J. Kinney has brought in since he's been at Texas State. A facelift was announced for UFCU Stadium where the Bobcats play, UFCU Stadium here in San Marcos. A new sound system is going to be added, which is interesting. They just redid those speakers and everything last year. I guess they're adding a little bit more to that. And they're going to add some suites to the west side of the stadium where the press box is right now. Great seating. It's not the biggest press box, but you're right there, nice level. Right there at the 50-yard line. At least that's where they'll seat me. Looks like we might be moving to the roof, a couple floors up. Right now we're on the 4th floor, might go to the 6th floor. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't gone that high up. I've been to the 5th floor, where some of your high end bobcats are up there hobnobbing in that nice suite for all the rich folks out there. I always feel below my tax bracket when I go up there, but I might be going past them to the press box on the roof. I saw, some media people won't like that, which I understand. You're so much further away. I know it's not a lot of fun for basketball, the way they put us basically all the way in the rafters to go see a basketball game where they put media, but I always bring binoculars with me anyway, especially for football. All these other sports, you may not really need binoculars, but football, I feel like you do. There's so much going on. You can kind of zoom in and see who's conversating away from the ball and what's happening all around on the sideline and everything. So I'm going to have my super sharp binoculars anyway, so no problem with me. If this opens up more suites for fans and everything, then yeah, absolutely. We can move the media to the roof, no problem. I know my guy, the Wizard, Zachary Webb, not a fan of heights. I don't know how much he'll like that. Good thing he stays on the sideline a lot. I like when he's in the press box with me, though. We get to talk about what we're looking at. But yes, UFCU Stadium, more big things happening. Definitely not stagnant here in San Marcos around Texas State. It's one thing Dr. Kelly Damphus will not allow this place to become is stagnant. He is always trying to expand, improve, change things, which I greatly appreciate on my end. Let's go to the mailbag, though. We'll keep the cleanup brief because I've already talked a lot at the top, and we've got a lot of good questions coming up from y'all. But let's do it. Let's get to this mailbag. Thank you again if you chimed in on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Using hashtag WNOGB makes it quicker to find. I do appreciate that. I mentioned it a couple episodes ago. I'm going to set up an email where you guys can reach out to me, and maybe we'll start moving a lot of the questions to that email. Because there's a good chunk of you that aren't on Twitter, and good for you if you're not, I imagine your mental health is much better than all of us who are doom scrolling our days away. But let's do it. Let's get to it. First one we have is from our guy, Blind Salamander. He got in at the last minute. Shout out to Blind Salamander, at Salamander Cult on Twitter. Shout out to the Blind Salamander. It says, with as many talented running backs as Texas State always seems to have, why do you think we never see any 20 or 21 personnel? And do you think we could see that some in the future? Yeah, the 20, 21 personnel, with two backs in the backfield, a fullback. Sometimes you see a version of it, but I don't know. It's more of a halfback when they bring a tight end, and they'll have them standing in front of the running backs, ready to set up a block. I think a lot of it has to do with when you watch G.J. Kinney's offenses, and a lot of these college offenses across the nation, they don't line up under center. It's all shotgun. And I feel like that right off the bat, that sets it up so you can't really have like a fullback situation, or even if you've seen some of these personnels where they're in the pistol, it feels too clunky the way they have to get the ball, turn around too quick. The point of when you have two backs in the backfield and you take that snap under center, there's a couple steps before you hand it off, which gives the fullback a couple steps to get into his block or to take the ball if you're doing a fullback dive. I feel like it starts there, where we've never seen a quarterback take a snap under center under G.J. Kinney. I feel like that was the same situation for Jake Spavital as well. It's just kind of a forgotten science or art form, whatever you want to call it, in college football. You see it a lot in the NFL. It's something I've wondered is why they don't do that to prepare these quarterbacks and these players more for some of these NFL-style offenses where they go back and forth. But I think it starts a lot there. And there's not really a fullback on the roster. They can move a tight end over like Blake Smith, one of these tight ends, and they can be a de facto fullback. I call it a halfback when they move them from out wide into the backfield for a specific play. I feel like that factors into a lot of it. I feel like I'm an old man yelling at clouds a lot when I'm talking about tight ends and how I want them to focus more on that, almost more traditional football, if you will. I feel like there's still a place for that in packages. It doesn't have to be your entire offense, but no, I don't think we will see that under G.J. Kinney. Keppel as well, the offensive coordinator. That doesn't seem like something that they're trying to do a whole lot of. But you never know. We saw a lot more running this year. We saw a lot more 12 personnel this year. So, they're trying to change it as well any way that they can. So, might pop up. We'll see with that one. Blind Salamander. I love a fullback. I love a tight end. I love a 12 personnel like they've been doing with the 2 tight ends. I'm not confident that we'll see a fullback for Texas State. All these D linemen, these 22 D linemen that we're talking about, one of them's got to be a fullback. I mean, you could get some refrigerator Perry action going for any of you old heads that remember that, the 80s Bears. Appreciate that one, Blind Salamander. Hopefully we see a fullback soon. We'll become a fullback pod immediately as soon as they pull one out. This one is from Boco by the River, at Boco by the River on Twitter X. Appreciate you, Boco by the River. A lot of talk about the Pac-12 media deal. I'm less focused on raw numbers and more on exposure. Moving from ESPN Plus to consistent linear TV feels like a huge, underrated win for Texas State. Have you heard anything about how that's shaping up? Yeah, I know there's some other questions about the Pac-12 media day as well, or media deal, the media deal as well, and when that is going to come to fruition and everything we're going to learn about that. I know there are going to be more questions, but I'm going to jump into it with the Pac-12. I'm kind of scrolling right now looking for some of these other Pac questions, but I'll just go ahead and get into it because that's the one part that I did do a little research and prepare on so I could inform y'all about everything that's going on with these media rights deals. Some of you may have seen it just happened this week that the Mountain West did complete their media rights deal. Let me check my notes. Yeah, they completed their media rights deal with CBS, Fox, and the CW. So their deal is complete. Now, that is very similar to the Pac-12's deal, where Pac-12 has CBS, USA, and the CW. The main difference is Mountain West has Fox, while the Pac-12 has USA and channels on there. Like I said, they are very similar. Fox for the Mountain West, this is the big one. I feel that Pac-12 is going to have all of their games on linear TV, as was just stated by Boco by the River. Let me see my numbers here. Yeah, Fox will show 12 Mountain West games and 20 basketball games, while USA for the Pac-12 will show 22 football games and 50 basketball games. That's the big one because they're both sharing CBS and the CW. Both the Mountain West and the Pac-12 are sharing those channels. The third party channel that came in for each of them, for Mountain West it was Fox, for the Pac-12 it was USA. Now, all of the Mountain West games aren't going to be on linear TV. USA is picking up 22 football games to make sure every football game for the Pac-12 is on linear TV, while only 12 for the Mountain West will be on Fox. That's the big part, is all of them will be on linear TV. And now we heard from the Mountain West president this week saying they didn't put out the specifics of the finances of the Mountain West deal, but they did say that it shouldn't decrease from the $3.5 million that they already share, that all the teams in the Mountain West are already getting $3.5 million. They do not anticipate that to decrease. They didn't say they expected it to increase either, which tells me it's going to land them about the same spot. And when you compare the two deals, and I know, you know what, now that I'm thinking on it, I probably still have my old graphic. If you are watching on YouTube, yes, youtube.com/WinNowOrGetBent. I'm going to pull up a Pac media rights deal right here where it designates where all of the how many games each channel will show here. And you can see right there with USA, 22 regular season games. That number will be just 12 for the Mountain West, and it'll be way less basketball games as well. But you see it is similar, though, in where the games will be broadcast and where it is spread out, which tells me that I believe the Pac-12 deal will be around $3.5 million. And we heard from the Utah State AD, he was giving an interview where he said he's starting to feel like maybe this Pac-12 deal is a little light or a little lean was the phrasing was the word he used exactly. It was a little lean than they were anticipating, not as high as possibly that 8 to 10 million range that they were shooting for when they were pitching this Pac-12. It could fall closer to that 3.5, 4 million, around that range that the Mountain West is expecting, because these deals are very similar. I feel the Pac-12's deal is better. I say it's much better when you're getting almost 30 more basketball games and 10 more football games that are going to be on linear TV. The Mountain West, they're talking about an app that they're going to have to use, and a lot of this stuff is going to be behind a paywall. That's not going to be the case for the Pac-12. I know in recent times I turn on YouTube TV and I will see some of these Mountain West basketball games that are already on linear TV. I was just watching Colorado State, Utah State the other day, and seeing the crowds there for basketball and everything got me real excited about what's coming up with Pac-12 and sports just beyond football. But I feel like getting that many games on linear TV is that type of exposure, even if it's not as much of a media rights deal as was anticipated with that $8 million. If it does fall to around $4 million, that exposure for Texas State, not having to get on the ESPN Plus app where you can just get on TV and boom, there's the game, whether it's basketball or football. All of those games are going to be available. And now it is interesting to think about it, because we don't know, not only do we not know how much each team is going to get in the Pac-12 from this media rights deal, we don't know what Texas State's share is as well. When this whole deal was announced last summer, it was exciting. Bobcats going to the Pac-12. There was a lot made from Dr. Kelly Damphus about not accepting a half bowl. He wanted a full bowl of soup. You remember that, all of that talk. And then when the announcement came for the Bobcats to go to the Pac-12, they didn't mention how big a bowl of soup the Bobcats are going to get. And you would think if they got a full share, they would announce it. It'd be in the headline. The fact that they didn't tells me that it might be a lesser share than probably some of these other programs. And this isn't me saying that's a bad thing. They took a bad deal. They took a deal that they had to get into a bigger market, to get their brand across linear TV and everything. Right now, Texas State's making just under $2 million a year in the Sun Belt. Let's say it does land at that $4 million, $3.5, $4 million that the Mountain West deal is looking like it's projected at, which is similar to the Pac-12 deal. So I would imagine it falls in that range. So let's say it falls in that range to let's go on the low end at 3.5. Let's say Texas State has a 50% share, which I do not know how much their share is. They could have a 100% share. I don't think so, because I feel like they would have announced it. But let's say they have 50% share. It's $1.75 million. It's a little bit less than they're getting in the Sun Belt, with more exposure as far as the brand recognition it's getting across TV and everything. So I feel like it's a plus in that area. It's not as great as it could be. You'd want it to be that TV rights deal is $8 million, or it's a much bigger TV rights deal, so that more money is coming into the Texas State coffers, and they are able to do a lot more of these projects, like I just mentioned, expanding UFCU and all of these things. You would want it to be more, but you would understand why they would take this deal to get more exposure, to kind of prove that this brand is worthy of being promoted and marketed to a different audience, or a bigger audience, I should say, not necessarily a different one, different and bigger. You know, but we don't know the specifics, and I'll say why we don't know the specifics yet. It is all on this lawsuit between the Mountain West and the Pac-12. Otherwise, there's probably going to be some other questions I'm stepping on too, but we would have the schedule released either now or soon for the Pac-12. There would be a lot of other things that would fall into place if it wasn't for this lawsuit. And just a reminder on this lawsuit, I know we talked about it during the season, when the 5 Mountain West teams left the Mountain West to go to the Pac-12, the Mountain West enacted some poaching fees on the Pac-12, around $150 million worth of poaching fees for taking these teams out of their conference. The Pac-12 sued, saying you can't, these aren't legal. You can't make us pay these poaching fees. And so they took it to court. The Mountain West tried to have the case thrown out. A judge said, nope, you can't throw it out. We're going to court. So right now, as of right now, this recording, February 4th, they are in discovery for that lawsuit, and it should pick up April 7th, I believe the day is in court, April 7th. So we'll know something probably towards the end of spring ball as far as how all of this is shaken out. I don't think that means the schedule won't come out till that long. I think they'll figure out the schedule. I know there's more questions on the schedule, so I'll hold off on that part. We'll just talk about what we know about the media deal. But a lot of it is dependent on that and that court case and what's going to happen there. Is the Pac-12 going to have to pay all this money? A lot of people around it are confident that they won't, but you never know what's going to happen with there. So a lot of that to say the finances still haven't come out. I imagine after this court case is done, then we can start finding out, okay, what's Texas State's share, what's everybody's share in the Pac-12, because of everything that's up in the air. When you send a Freedom of Information Request Act, that's something you can do, anybody can do with these public universities or these public institutions that take taxpayer money. You can send a request for information and you get back the specifics on a deal, say with the Pac-12 and things like that. But we haven't, when we sent those in the summer, when this whole deal went in, we got a response back saying the deal isn't finished, so they can't give us any of the details on that. So I imagine that we'll all have to wait till after that lawsuit as well, till we know the exact specifics, what the share is across the all the teams in the Pac-12, and specifically how much of the share Texas State is going to get. So there you go. It's still up in the air. We're waiting for that court case, really. That's the big part of it. The other part of it is the Mountain West deal came out, and it was very similar to Pac-12's. Pac-12's was a little better, in my opinion. And now I guess I say it's a little better, but that could be subjective, because I could imagine if you're on the Mountain West side of it and you're like, well, you say that's better, you get 10 more football games on USA than we get on Fox, but isn't Fox a bigger channel than the USA Network? And there is an argument to be had there that Fox is a bigger platform. But I would say, as when we're not in the days of 3 channels and connecting a satellite to everything, it's all on YouTube TV. So if it's on Fox or if it's on USA, my TV is going to suggest it to me and say, hey, you like sports? Here you go. Here's that team you root for, because we've been reading what you do all the time. But there you go. We are still waiting to find out. I would say this news is, I wouldn't say it's worse, or I wouldn't say it's good or bad for Texas State. I would say the lean comments from the Utah State AD aren't great. I don't like that. I don't like to hear that it's not as much money as they were kind of being told. Hey, hold on, wait till all the specs come out and we're going to be making a lot of money. It's not shaking up like it's going to be there, especially when you hear from the Mountain West and what they're making. You can't imagine the Pac-12's deal when you look at those specs and how the games are split out, and it's a little bit more for the Pac-12 than it is for the Mountain West, but I wouldn't say it's double the media deal. So I wouldn't anticipate them making double what the Mountain West is. But I digress. That was a long time on that one, because there's a lot to go over, but I feel like I answered some of your other questions going down, so we'll be able to go through the list a little quicker. Shout out to my guy Boko by the River. Appreciate that question. Good one to get us started talking about the Pac-12. This one's from my guy Ryan. What's up, Ryan? I met you at the live show. Hope you are doing great, my guy. I got you some tickets this year too. I remember that in our TGC ticket giveaway. This is from our guy Ryan at RedRumSSBM on Twitter. Open-ended question. What are your expectations for Texas State baseball this season? I know football is the main focus, but with recruiting wrapped up for football, it would be great to hear about some baseball during the spring, especially football. Spring practice begins. I agree. We have underreported baseball on this podcast. The last 2 off seasons have been incredibly busy for me, being a new father and everything. But man, I was just talking to the Wizard, Zachary Webb, our great producer here. And I was telling him, I was like, man, things are as harmonious in my house as they've ever been. Everybody's sleeping. Everybody's on a great schedule. It's fantastic. So I am excited about what we can do this spring and this off season. And the main thing the Wizard and I were talking about is more baseball. I know my guy's a big seam head. The Wizard loves baseball. We're going to get out there and do a lot more with it this year. As far as my expectations for this year, it's been, I got to say, I love Coach Trout. Ever since he took over for Ty Harrington, he's really been a steady hand on the wheel for this program. After that great 2022 season, where they go like 44-11, 2022 Super Regional, playing Stanford, winning conference after all that great stuff in 2022, and a decent 2023 season. It's a below 500. I don't know the exact records off the top of my head. Each of the last 2 seasons below 500 for Texas State baseball, which has been a bit of a letdown for a program that is pretty proud and has done some great things. And obviously they did cool things last season, like beating UT and A&M and beating these big programs, and they can really figure it out during the week. It's these weekend series, especially when they get in the conference the last 2 seasons, that have given them fits. And I know going into the Pac-12, baseball isn't the big one. It's going to be football and basketball are the big ones, and baseball almost feels like an afterthought. But I think that's a great thing for Texas State. They're a sport that everybody else isn't taken seriously. Is something that Texas State always takes seriously, and they can command quite a successful season. You know, going into the Pac-12, you look at teams like Oregon State. There's some good programs. But for the most part, Texas State will be one of the strongest baseball teams. I don't think the pressure is on Trout and baseball program like it is basketball. Pressure is full go on basketball. You know, with what's coming up, the buzzsaw that's coming in with the Pac-12. But I don't think it's a make it or a win or bust type season for Trout or this baseball team. But I think that after what's happened the last 2 seasons, they've got to do a lot to prove that this is still Texas State baseball. This is still a program that we're proud of. But it's gotta start changing this year. I feel like basketball has to finish with a winning record this year. Baseball is pretty close to being on high alert for that as well. But I believe in Trout, like I was saying, that 2022 season wasn't too long ago. It's been a little rough the last 2 seasons, but talking with people who are smarter than me around the baseball program and how excited they are about some of these recruits and players that are coming back, I'm anticipating a big season for Texas State baseball. People are confident, you know, and they were. It wasn't as confident going into last year. I can remember people were confident going into 2024, and then it didn't end up doing so well. But last season it was like, you know, it was a little bit more wishy-washy, and then you saw the results. That wishy-washiness it's changed this offseason, a lot more confidence. So we shall see. Baseball, though, shout out to Ryan. More baseball for you this spring. Hold me to it, too. Get in there and force my hand if I'm not putting out enough baseball content for y'all. All right, my guy, Adrian Garza. I know he's got 2. I'll find his other one, too. Shout out to Adrian Garza. My guy, Adrian, always getting in here on these mailbags. At agarza34 on Twitter. What do you expect football 2026 schedule to look like? Okay, here we go. I knew there were some schedule questions. Should we expect a balanced schedule with, say, 2 West Coast teams to travel and 2 of them come here? Or since we are new and didn't get the full share, he added that in parentheses, will we get what we get? What do you think games announced so early? What do you think games announced so early? The last part of it I don't understand. I think there might be a misspelling. But yes, as far as the schedule, you would think that's how it would be. Two teams on the West Coast, 2 coming over here to San Marcos to help alleviate travel. But again, you know, who knows what the powers that be in the Pac-12, they are looking at it. Oh, Texas State's this new team. They're not even getting a full share. Maybe they get a shaft on scheduling as well. I don't think that's going to be the case, especially with 8 teams. It feels like you could even it out. You could almost make it where it is almost easier for travel. I know that there's another question about the 12th game for everybody because there's only 8 games and there's supposed to be 8 conference matchups throughout the season, that there is everybody in the Pac-12 right now, all 8 teams kind of have an opening in their schedule, and what that's going to look like. Is it going to be a home and home with a conference opponent where you'll play somebody twice in the same season, or is it going to be that all the Pac-12 teams are going to have to go out and pay another team that has an opening to get in there and do it? I feel like the former is more likely, where they are going to just do a home and home with a team in conference to alleviate that opening in everybody's schedule. But, you know, as far as, and I was saying, I kind of mentioned it earlier, it hasn't been announced yet because there's still a lot of things up in the air for the Pac-12. So the scheduling and everything, you're seeing some other conferences release their schedules. It's going to be a little bit longer for the Pac-12. You know, and I think it's going to be a combo of they need that 12th game. It's a new conference, and they need that 12th game. So there's a lot. I say a new conference. All these new teams are in the conference, so there's so much newness as far as the scheduling that there isn't really a last season, a template to fall back on, and like, oh, here's what we did last year. So there's a lot of those changes. Combo that with the fact that their media rights deal isn't even fully announced. They have this lawsuit going on, and they have this opening in their schedule. That's why we haven't seen the schedule come out yet. It is going to take a little bit of time. But like I was saying, I anticipate a home and home to fill that 12th game, where you're going to see the Bobcats play a Pac-12 team twice. You know, one, and I would think that if they do pair a home and home throughout the whole Pac-12, that you would imagine that they'd probably try to make it easier on travel for this home and home. So the closest team to every other team, that's your home and home partner. I think like Colorado State, probably be that for Texas State. Colorado State in San Marcos, and the Bobcats go up there and play them in Colorado Springs. I think that could be a very likely scenario. Colorado State would be the one for me. I think if I were to do ideal home and away for the 8 games, you know, not the non-conference slate, but 4 home conference games and 4 away conference games. For me personally, I would love the home games to be for Texas State at home, Washington State, Oregon State, Fresno, and then Colorado State. Why I say Washington State, Oregon State, Fresno, those are the furthest travel. So make them come to the Bobcats. That's me being selfish there. It might not work out. And then I put Colorado State as the 4th one for that home and home option, that I feel like they could do a home and home with Colorado State. Away for Texas State, I have Boise State because I want to see the blue field. Utah State. Utah is beautiful. I'd love to see it. San Diego. Who doesn't want to go to San Diego? And then Colorado State because it's, you know, the closest. That would be ideal for me. You know, that's me. If I'm in there making the schedule, that's what I would do for Texas State. But that's not likely to be the case. But that's what I would like. That's how I'd love to go to Boise, Utah, San Diego. Those would be the fun ones to go to. Anywhere they go, though, is going to be tough travel. That's the other thing. And even going back a little further before this question, we were talking about the media rights deal and the differences between the Pac-12 and the Sun Belt, where even if they are getting a half share and that media rights deal is similar to what the Bobcats are getting in the Sun Belt, you have to factor in the extra cost of travel in the Pac-12. It will be more. So hopefully that media rights deal isn't as lean as the Utah State AD is anticipating. I know Adrian had a second question, so I'm going to scroll down and find that. Here we go. Second question from our guy Adrian. Always feel free to throw in multiple questions, all of you out there. I will read all of them. From Adrian, you mentioned players that may come back from the portal that may be seniors and might receive waivers. Can you review those possibilities again, especially if you have new info about that group? Yeah, I had somebody jump in my DMs and say Ty Mims, the receiver, is at UAB. Thank you to whoever that was who gave me that information. But Ty Mims did transfer out. That's the one that I could confirm. I know a few of all of the ones that I named, I'm like, maybe they'll be back. I'm not sure. It's not likely that they're coming back. I threw them on there just because I hadn't confirmed anything. But I assumed Ty Mims and Tyron Smith and Julius Spencer, Torrance Burgess, some of these players that I listed that I had a question mark by, I don't anticipate them being back. So that's kind of my update there. The one I know for sure is Ty Mims. He's definitely not back. He's at UAB. Talented player too, so I think he'll do some good things at UAB. Appreciate you on that one, Adrian. This one is from Texas State Blitz at TXST Blitz on Twitter. Shout out to my guy Texas State Blitz. Appreciate the question. Appreciate using the hashtag. What away game destinations excite you the most? Oh, I already kind of answered this one, but I'll do it again. A huge benefit of the Pac-12 is obviously the new team's name brands and some cool locations. I personally plan to go to at least one Pac away game, and I'm really hoping it's Boise State. Colorado State would be cool too. All right. At Texas State Blitz, I jumped on your question already early, huh? But yeah, that's where my away, Boise State is number 1 with the blue field. Utah is beautiful. I want to see Utah. Would love to go up there. San Diego State. Who doesn't want to go to San Diego? Colorado Springs. You know, I have friends up there, specifically my buddy Clint. He lives up there. I went to high school with him. It'd be cool to selfishly for me to see some people I know up there. But yeah, Boise State, Utah State, San Diego State, those really excite me. But honestly, even Pullman, Washington, Corvallis, Oregon, I wouldn't mind any of those. Maybe Fresno's the one where I'm like, Fresno, but who knows? Maybe it's beautiful. It's California after all. So, but yeah, those are the ones that excite me. Boise State. I think you had it right when you said Boise State. That's the top one on your list. Go see my guy Chris Coots, their sports information director there. He used to be the sports information director here. You can't shake me. You can't lose me, Coots. See you in the fall, buddy. Can't wait for all of that. All right, shout out to Tech State Blitz. Great question. This one's for my guy, Everything Texas State. I know this guy in real life. I don't know if I can dox you and say your real name, your real life name. But shout out to Everything Texas State. Good dude. I just saw him at the bowl game too. So some quick hitters from Everything Texas State at TXST Game Day on Twitter if you want to go follow our guy. When does the Pac 2026 football schedule get released? Like I was saying, it'll be, I don't think that one is held up by the litigation, but it will be a little bit longer because of all the things up in the air. But I do anticipate that home and home being the solution for that 12th game though. So, next month, it's gotta be soon, I can't say for sure when it's coming out though. When I do know, I will tell you. I will say it on the pod. I will tweet it, all that good stuff. Who would be our Pac in-conference home and away games? Yeah, Colorado State. Gosh, I jumped all over a lot of your guys' questions with that first little deal I did on the Pac-12. Hopefully that was informative. But I would say Colorado State just because it's the closest one. That would be, I feel like, ideal for Texas State. Do you prefer home and home for the 9th game or a flexible schedule? I answered every single one of them. Sorry about this, Everything Texas State. I prefer the home and home. I think the flexible would be fun. The idea of it is fun. It's like, oh, it could be anybody, but in the same breath, it could be anybody, let's do a home and home and let's get to know this Pac-12 brethren a little bit more. Yeah, sorry if I jumped on your questions before that. I appreciate you getting in there, Everything Texas State. Appreciate you always out there on these Twitter streets, repping the Bobcats. I'm always seeing you out there getting it in the mix. Next up is our guy, Robert Garcia. What's up, Robert? At Robert Garcia the 4th on Twitter. My guy, Robert. Good to see you. I think it was the last game of the season I saw you. I ran into you. You're way too early bowl site for 2026-2027 season. Way too early. Also, how much is Gonzaga beating us by in Pac Strand next season in basketball? The bets start at 50, over under 50 points on that one. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think it'll be that high. I have seen one 50-point loss for Texas State basketball. It's way back in 2011, 2012. They lost at UT by 50 points. I went all the way up to Austin to witness that one in person. But as far as a bowl site for next season, I'm going to say this. It won't be in DFW. How about that? It'll be a better bowl game. Not better. Don't mean to disparage the great people at the First Responders Bowl or the Armed Forces Bowl. But I am feeling Texas State. They're coming back with all these offensive weapons. Brad Jackson, Bo Sparks, Greg Burrell, Chris Don Jr. got some big offensive linemen to block. We already know this offense can put up a lot of points. Now they're changing up the defense. The defense was the Achilles heel of this program. They have changed that. They have recognized that is a problem. This is the first offseason where they're like, okay, we have got to change this around. So that gives me even more confidence. I just announced it earlier where they brought in 2 more defensive linemen, 22 defensive linemen. They're going to be cycling through, getting after the quarterback. I think this is going to be a big season for Texas State. Without seeing the schedule, it's hard for me to put a win-loss record on it. I think this is the year that G.J. Kinney does get over that hump where he shows everybody he's not just a slightly above 500 coach. He is a winning coach. I think this is the season for that. So I don't know where that bowl game will be. I think it'll be a much better, I don't want to say location, but it'll be a better bowl game, a more prestigious bowl game for Texas State. Who knows? Maybe even the college football playoff, huh? Even though college football is trying to box out the G5, G6. I guess we're in 2026 now. It's the G6. They're trying to box out the G6 a little bit by all the other conferences, the big dogs, the big conferences, and Notre Dame, if they're in the top 12, they get an auto bid for being a champion. But there is nothing in the bylaws about the G5 teams getting an auto bid. So if a G5 team, G6 team, excuse me, we got to start saying G6. If a G6 team does land inside the top 12, then they can get into the playoffs. But they don't necessarily have to win their conference to get that. But that kind of, I feel like that leaves a little bit of a window open for, let's say a team does win conference, the highest rated conference champion in the G6, but they're like 14, 15 in the ranking, probably not even that high. We see they don't ever rank the G6 as that high. But let's say they're out of the top 12. I feel like it's kind of setting the table for them to shaft the G6. But we'll see. We'll see if that's really what their nefarious intentions are. Me being I'm always a skeptic. So I see something like that. They're like, oh, don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. The not saying they have to be a champion to get in the playoff, but I'm already seeing it. I already know what they like to do. They're trying to box out the little guy and eat all the pie for themselves. But there you go, Robert. Hope you're doing great, Robert. I'll see you around very soon. I imagine a basketball game, baseball game real soon. All right, next up, the Goose. The Goose at free G4H, free Goose from hell. I don't know. Is that what that means? He got locked out of his account for a while, so he always has to switch it up. But the Goose, if you're on Texas State Twitter, you know the Goose, our guy, the man, the Goose. Do you think the clubhouse and facility upgrades will be enough to help Coach Trout get baseball back to where fans and alumni expect it to be? Also, I was in Genoa, all right, for a month ago, and the locals said to ask you for your favorite pesto recipe. So give us the scoop, bud. All right, let's go back. We'll start with baseball before I get on to a pesto recipe for you. Yeah, the facility upgrade. So I just went to the basketball game for Texas State. Nice win by Texas State. Might have been their most complete win of the season on Saturday. I went with the Wizards, Zachary Webb. We went and checked it out on Saturday. And as we were leaving, we were seeing baseball players walking in all their gear, probably just finished practice or something was going on Saturday. And they're walking to Strahan to go to the locker room because that's what they have to do. They leave the baseball field. They have to go across the street, over railroad tracks, and walk across a parking lot to get to their locker room. Now, with things are changing up, that's going to be different. I'm pretty sure that their locker rooms are going to be right there where the field is, and it's not going to be as much of a hike for them and everything, which seems like a small thing, but it's actually, I feel like it's just for posterity and these players, their everyday routine. It's going to just do more. But yeah, obviously upgrading facilities and everything isn't enough. Just doing that alone isn't going to get you wins. I think they need to get back there. I was mentioning it earlier that the last 2 seasons have been below 500, not to the standard the program has been in. I know they can feel that. I don't feel like Trout's on the hot seat like TJ is for basketball, Terrence Johnson for men's basketball, how there might be a bit of a hot seat for him with the Pac-12 coming up. I don't think that's the situation for Trout, but this is a very proud program, and there's a lot of proud fans around, and the standard is there, and it's going to get louder and louder if they don't live up to it. But like I was saying earlier, a lot of people are pretty excited about what's coming up for Texas State baseball and the recruits that they brought in, the guys that they retained, and they're anticipating a big season. So I am. They got to get back to where we're back to 2022. Those are good times in 2022. What was the second part? Oh, yes. You were in Genoa. That's in Italy. Asking for my pesto recipe. Listen, the pesto goes on most things. Most Italian dishes, you add some pesto, it's going to increase the flavor palette on it. My favorite is gnocchi. Get some pesto gnocchi. I don't feel like pesto gnocchi is as popular. You can even do a gorgonzola sauce with it. It is delicious. Anything you have seafood-wise, add some pesto. I like a good Costco. Don't overthink it. Costco, you can get some Costco brand ravioli. They've got lobster ravioli. You add some pesto in that. It's delicious, man. I love it there. Pesto, you can put it on anything. My wife makes these sub sandwiches. She warms them up in the oven and everything. They're Italian sub sandwiches with peppercini and all the meat and everything. And she makes a pesto sauce that she puts on it. Gosh, that's probably the best dish, honestly. It's not even one that I make. It's my wife on it. But pesto, you can't go wrong with pesto. It'll get in your teeth, though, so make sure you brush them after you eat that pesto. Shout out to the Goose. Hope you're doing well. I hope New Mexico is lovely this time of year. It's not as nice as San Marcos, but, I'm sure it's fine. Mike McDaniel, my guy Mike, ran into Reagan at the bowl game. I asked, where's Mike? He said he was at the hotel. Shout out to Mike McDaniel. Hope you're doing great, you and Reagan. Do you think the Raiders draft Mendoza? Thanks, Mike. Thank you for asking about the Raiders. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. That was the first part of his question. The second part, which conference team do you hope we play on the road to go visit? Oh, yeah, I already got that one. I'll stick with Boise. I want to see the blue field. I'd love to see that blue field. Idaho, it's a state I've never been to either. I'd love to see that blue field. If you have time for a vacation or anything, it's got to be San Diego, right? If you want to relax and kick back. Do the Raiders draft Mendoza? I am as happy a Raider fan as any of you have ever heard me, at least on this podcast, probably since I've been an adult, since 2003 when they lost in the Super Bowl, and I was in 8th grade, 9th grade, somewhere around there. This is the happiest I've been since then. When you look at first overall pick, they've got a really great prospect coming up. It's not a home run prospect in Mendoza, but he's just his character and everything that goes into him. It's at least somebody to root for, even if it's not going to end up being Patrick Mahomes, but somebody to root for that you hope can succeed and can overcome all these pitfalls that this organization, the Las Vegas Raiders, have created for themselves. But this is why I'm more excited. I was excited before. I was like, okay, great, we're going to get Mendoza, but Raiders don't have a coach. What's going to happen? It doesn't matter if you have the best player ever. If you don't have somebody to coach him, nothing's going to happen with that player. And I was not confident going into another coaching search. They fired Pete Carroll after one season. Another nostalgia hire in Pete Carroll. The Raiders love to do this. They go get the John Grudens of the world and the, hey, remember when that guy was good type of coaches. This is the first time that they've gone out and they're like, you know what? This is a guy. He hasn't been a head coach before. He's a young wonderkin. He's got the great pedigree with the Kubiak name. He's an offensive mind for an offensive prospect in Mendoza. I am as confident as I've ever been with the Raiders, which tells me that they're going to win a whole whopping 6 games this year. But it's a tough go being a Raiders fan. But it's hard not to be excited when you think about Mendoza. Him as a prospect, he's got the height, he's got the mindset, he's got the decision making, he's got a big arm. He doesn't make every single throw that's on there. He's not a check every single box type of quarterback, but he's definitely a type of quarterback where if you put the right talent around him, he will elevate that talent. We saw him going from Cal, didn't have the best players, didn't do so great, goes to Indiana, has the best players, does fantastic. When you give him the right tools, he's going to build you a beautiful house, but you got to give him the right tools, and that's what the Raiders got to do. They have Ashton Janty, they have Brock Bowers, they have tools for him, but they've really there's a lot of work to do for the Raiders, but this is the first time where I'm happy with the coaching decision, and I'm excited about the quarterbacks coming up. I can't remember ever being that way, at least as an adult for the Raiders. So exciting times. Long-winded answer to say yes, they will draft Fernando Mendoza. If they screw it up, I'm going to be so mad. I'll never talk about him again. If they trade out of it, if they do something like that, I'm going to be so mad. But they won't. They won't do it this time. Let's go Raiders. Raider Nation's back, baby. Here we go. Appreciate you, Mike. Do you regret asking about the Raiders? Spent a good 5 minutes on that one. Thanks again, Mike, for that question. This one's from Curtis Spillman. What's up, Curtis? Always jumping in these mailbags. Hope you are doing great, my guy. What's the delay on the 2026 schedule release? Talked about it already. It's a new conference. They got to figure out that 12th game on the schedule. So there's a few things in the air, but it should be coming soon enough. I would, it's got to drop in February, you'd think. I mean, not exactly sure. I don't want to put a date on it and say everybody expect it on this day because I really don't know. But I do know that why we're waiting when others aren't is because of all the extenuating circumstances that go into the revamped Pac-12. Shout out to you, Curtis. Hope you're great, my guy. Hope to see you again soon. Everything Texas State again. I didn't realize you had 2 questions. I would have answered it earlier. At TXST Game Day, my guy here. I met my guy here at the Incarnate Word versus Furman game in San Antonio right after G.J. Kinney was hired as a Texas State coach, but he didn't come to Texas State right away because Incarnate Word was in the playoffs. This is when I knew they got a good coach. When G.J. Kinney could have, a lot of other coaches would have left, said, I got to start preparing, recruiting, doing all these things for this new FBS job I got. He said, I got to stay here and finish these playoffs with Incarnate Word. So they had a game in San Antonio, and I went down there, and that's where I met my guy asking this question, everything Texas State. True sicko, coming out to Incarnate Word game to see the Bobcats' new coach. I loved that. He asked, why does the host of Wizard Wednesday pod not wear a wizard costume? He's talking about Zachary Webb doing Wizard Wednesday. Why does he not wear a wizard costume? It's a great question. We're going to have to get him one, have to get it labeled. You know, got the nice pointy hat. We can get the Mad Cat logo right there on it. I think it'll be great. Maybe he has a cauldron just steaming next to him, like he's brewing up some hot takes in his cauldron. He's gonna love this. Zach's gonna love this idea. I'm not even gonna ask him if he's okay with it. We're just gonna sign off on it. We're gonna dress up the wizard as a wizard. Thank you, everything Texas State. Great addition. Hope you're well. I know I will see you soon. Oh, this one's from our guy, Baseball Nut, at Baseball Nut 46. My guy, always good to hear from you. Always good to see you in my DMs. Do you expect that we will have a new men's and women's basketball coach as we enter the Pac-12? Yeah, it's a good time to talk about some basketball for Texas State and coming into this season. Right now, as I'm recording this, they're 13-11. They've won the last 2 games in a row. They're a little bit above 500. They're sitting around like 8th, 7th in the standings in the Sun Belt, but only a game or 2 is separating teams from 2nd to 8th in the standings right now. So a couple wins and some losses from some other teams, they can move their way up. And I'm talking about men's basketball right now. After Terrence Johnson, he won the regular season Sun Belt championship his first 2 years, and then ever since then it's been a bit of a letdown for men's basketball. This year, they're above 500. They've been relatively healthy. Seeing guys like Mark Drone and DJ Hall play most of the season has been nice. It's been a bit of a change from the last 3 seasons where they had a ton of injuries, or they would have some games where they'd have a 5-man starting lineup, but you only have 7 men available to play, which means they have 2 backups the whole game. Haven't seen any of that this year, which has been very given me some confidence in this program. As far as whether they need to move on the following year, I would say it's Terrence Johnson deserves a chance to see how this season shakes out before any decisions like that are made. I think that the floor is 20 wins though. You know, they'd have to get 20 wins in the regular season, they'd have to win out right now. But I would even say they make the tournament, they're able to win a couple games and get over that 20-win mark. That's where I would start to think about it. Like, okay, well, maybe this is someone who can take this program on and elevate it. But if I'm being honest, I mean, what we've seen the last 3 seasons, I've been absolutely blown away this season. They are healthier. I really like that the additions like DJ Hall, who I mentioned earlier, and how they're able to recruit and bring in some guys. I know Terrence Johnson also has 2 4-star prospects signed to come play next season, so they have done really well in recruiting. But I think this is a results-based situation. And if the results are the same that they've been the last 3 years, and it's a 4th straight year of meandering around 500, usually just below it, not doing much in the tournament, then they've got to move on. But I think that if this team can get close to 20 wins before the tournament and really make some noise in the tournament, preferably winning the Sun Belt tournament and getting to the NCAA tournament, something that hasn't been done here since 1997, then yes, absolutely, you bring them back. If they are able to put together some magic at the end of this season and finish this season strong. But if we're looking at another 15-win season, another ho-hum performance in the Sun Belt tournament that absolutely have to move on, especially when you look around the college basketball landscape and you can find some good value at these programs and elevate a coach to the D1 level. You know, I mean, I was just talking about it with the Wizard, bringing him up a lot on this pod. You got to get it behind the mic. Zach, we need a Wizard Wednesday. We were just talking to him about one of his other alma mater, McNeese, with Will Wade, and how what they were able to do with 2 years of him, and now he's off to North Carolina State. You can find these coaches that'll come in and galvanize your program. But I feel like TJ is owed to finish this season. Maybe they can really do something special, and you can see the vision, because you see players like DJ Hall as a freshman is going to be a hot commodity in the transfer portal. But if he can retain some of these guys, because that's been the other thing, is retention has not been great. I think there's 2 guys on this team that played last year on this entire roster. So they've got to really finish this season strong for TJ to remain and to be at Texas State and to be the coach leading this team into the Pac-12, because it is a competitive conference. I was just talking about it earlier. I know they're still in the Mountain West, but seeing Utah State, Colorado State on TV, seeing some of these other games with these Mountain West future Pac-12 matchups where the stands are full. And I think back to 2019, February 2nd, 2019, versus the University of Texas Arlington, a double OT loss for Texas State, but there were 6,500 people at Strahan. It was incredible. There was a time where the basketball program, it was popular and things were hopping, and that stadium was full. I can remember even the following year, right before the pandemic took everything out, the Texas State set the second biggest attendance record, 6,000 and some change, at that one in the Sun Belt tournament. So basketball has been big here before, and when the team is successful, the fans do come out, and that's going to be important going into the Pac-12. So if they can't do the first part, the winning part, the fans aren't going to come out. It's going to be an issue. So, yeah, you have to move on. If it's the same that we've seen the last 3 years, unless something exceptional happens the last month and a half of the season, then I feel like Texas State is going to have to move on off of TJ, which is unfortunate. I really like Terrence Johnson. You know, I hope the first part of what I said, and they can find some magic and finish this season strong. But I appreciate that one. Baseball Nut, that's who asked it. Appreciate you, Baseball Nut, on that one. Let's see. Bobcat Din coming up from @BobcatDin on Twitter. Shout out to Bobcat Din. How important are the 2026-2027 season for the university as it enters a new conference? It's big, because this is the one, honestly, going into the Pac-12, everybody they love to talk down on Texas State and look at the Bobcats as the outsider all the way out in Texas, and not really near these West Coast teams. Some of them haven't even heard of Texas State till they joined the Pac-12. Bobcats have a lot to prove, and and we don't know yet. We talked a lot about it earlier about the media rights share and what they get. But if the Bobcats are getting half a share, then they definitely have a lot to prove. There's some people inside the Pac-12 that don't feel Texas State belongs in the Pac-12. So you got to come out the gate screaming. You got to show them that you're here. You're not one of these. You're not going to be at the bottom of the standings every single year. You're not just a team for everybody else to beat up on. You're here to take conference championships. Yeah, it's massively important. Massively important. That's why football, I feel like they're primed to do something great. Basketball, we still have some time in the season to see, but they may need to make some changes in order to do something great. But yes, you can't wallow your way into the Pac-12, into this new era. You got to come in running. You got to come in screaming with your hair on fire and prove to everybody else that you belong in the Pac-12. Massively important. I would say one of the most important years in the history of Texas State athletics is coming up this year. It might be the most important year. They've really got to show everybody, finally got elevated. Everybody made fun of Texas State for years and years, called it a party school, said they couldn't win any games, start to get their act together a little bit in football, show that fans will actually show up to games when things are going right. We get the call up, we get the elevation, surpassed a lot of other teams that thought they should have got the call up. Yeah, we've got a lot to prove. A lot to prove. A lot to prove that this team belongs in this conference. I would say the most important season for Texas State athletics. At least in the Texas State era, 2003, since they've been called Texas State, I would say this is the most important season, in my humble opinion. But yeah, thanks, Bobcat Dan. That was a good question. I got passionate on that one. This one's coming from my guy Logan, at LoganBeast23. What's up, Logan? Hope you're doing great, my guy. When do you expect us to schedule release for football? We've talked about that a lot. It's on a lot of y'all's minds. You want to know. You got to schedule for the fall. I totally get it. But I'll put a date on that when I know it soon. As soon as I'm starting to get an idea of this schedule's coming out. Second part of his question: should this be the basketball coach's last season as we enter the Pac-12? That's funny. This time of year, it's kind of we're all thinking the same things, I guess. But yeah, I mentioned it earlier that they putting together I need a nice win streak. I need some wins in the tournament. Otherwise, got to move on. Got to move on and find somebody that can get it done. Especially when you go back and you think about when Texas State was pitching itself to the Pac-12, and part of that pitch was increasing the budget for basketball by nearly 50%. And you have to imagine increasing the funds there would help you get a new coach if you need to, but it would also help an old coach in recruiting. If he's able to do this with half this budget, then you double his budget, you would imagine better things could happen. But they have to finish strong this year. Appreciate you, Logan. Hope you're doing great, my guy. We'll get that schedule out soon. I know it. This one's from my guy, Jeff Walker. What's up, Jeff? How you doing? Now that we have a defensive staff lined up, what changes schematically can we anticipate? Maybe premature question, but would love your thoughts. Never premature, or it's always the right time to talk about football and schemes and all that. It's funny. This one too is one that I was talking to the Wizard when we went to that basketball game, Texas State basketball game on Saturday, and we were talking about the defensive scheme and Will Windham and how much it's potentially going to change. And I won't step on his toes too much because he's got a good Wizard Wednesday coming up where he's breaking down percentages of how much Dexter McCoyle was in man, how much he was in four down linemen. Same thing for Will Windham at South Alabama and what all that looks like. So I'm going to wait for Wizard Wednesday to get fully into that one. I will say that there was a lot of four down front with Will Windham, so I would expect that with Texas State, but I'm going to hold that one for the Wizards. So hang on for me, Jeff, on that one. The Wizards got some good stuff. He's got some hard data for you, some real numbers to put behind it. So hold off on that one, but never too early. Not premature at all. Great time to ask about it, actually. Appreciate you there on that one, Jeff. This one is from One Pack at One Pack Cards on Twitter. He said, listen to the depth chart episode and was wanting to ask if Bryce Carter and Terrence Cooks still had eligibility. Pretty sure they're both done. I know Carter was in the senior day festivities, and I'm pretty sure it's the same deal for Terrence Cooks. Certain both are done. I'd have to, I can look at Terrence Cooks real quick while I'm here. Because, I'm pretty sure I was double-checked on him when I was doing all the stuff for Texas State. Yeah, he was a redshirt senior this year, so he's done. He's all done. And, while we're here, go ahead, right? For posterity, we'll go ahead and look up Bryce Carter. I was pretty sure he was a senior as well. I remember him in the festivities. Yeah, redshirt senior. Both are redshirt seniors, so both are done. They're done. The redshirt part, that means that they've already had their eligibility extended somewhat, so they're all done there. Also wanted to get your opinion on what group defensively and offensively you believe need more depth on roster. Oh, great question. Thanks, as always, Keff, for all your work. Thank you. Thank you guys for always tuning in. Best, the ones that need depth, he said, not the best, right? Yeah, the ones that need depth. Defensively, that's easy for me. It's safety. Safety needs some help. Broke it down on the depth episode. They only had about 5 safeties at 2 positions, so I think they need some help there at that position. Offense, it's less obvious. I mentioned center is probably one where we only had Ezra Dotson Oyate listed as the center, but I've since learned that Tegan Lindsay, I'm actually glad you asked this question, give a little update on that depth chart. Tegan Lindsay, the freshman coming in, he will be playing center, so you can put him in there as well. Offensive position, I don't know if there is a true weak one where it's like maybe some more depth there. If I really had to think about it, and you got to add depth somewhere, maybe running back. Just DJ Kinney likes to have about 7 running backs. Right now they have 5, so maybe they'll want to get a couple more. Could always use more offensive linemen as well, even though they have 22, so they don't need much more. But that's what I would, safety of any position, offense, defense, special teams. That's the one I have my eye on, like needs a little shoring up at that safety position. So appreciate you there, One Pack. Hope you are great. This one is from Derek Dela Cruz, Certified Bobcat on Twitter. Are we needing another OOC game, out of conference game, or will we play a conference mate twice to get back to 12? Yeah, similar to some of the other questions, it could be either or, seeming like it's going to be a home and home with another conference. That's what I would anticipate, because it feels like the logistics of getting another out of conference game in there would be really hard, especially if you're probably have to do it in the middle of the season or towards the end of the season. But I would anticipate a home and home with a conference mate. Appreciate you there, Derek. Hope you are great, my guy. This one is from Brockcat at Brock HO4393025. A lot of numbers at the end of that one. Brockcat, shout out to you, Brockcat. Hope you're doing great. This looks like a suggestion for a trophy between Texas State and UTSA. It says a Bowie knife fashioned with Texas State and UTSA emblem made from salvaged battleship in Texas. Ooh, that's a hardcore trophy. I like that. Game renamed to the Battle for the Bowie. What's the Bowie knife? I don't know the significance. I don't know. I don't know the significance between Texas State and UTSA and the Bowie knife. I always think of like Davy Crockett, on that one. But no, I don't know the significance of that one. I will say it sounds like an awesome trophy. Right now we have the golden grocery cart, the HEB grocery cart that they unofficially pass back and forth. But this would be a pretty cool one. I think you'd have to get both sides down. You'd imagine that San Antonio being military city, they'd be up to honor some of the military with that, especially if you're using some salvaged battleship to use to make the trophy. But that one would be cool. Something to think about. Some more traditions for Texas State going forward. I'm a fan of the golden golf cart, but a hardcore trophy with a knife on it and both teams' emblems sounds pretty cool. Appreciate you on that one, Brockcat. Donnie Coriel, not the AD. We have an imposter. I always appreciate the imposter accounts, the parody accounts. You guys are always funny. You're stuck on an island the rest of your life. Oh, here we go. And you can take one movie, one album, and one food forever. What are you choosing? Oh, man. Threw me for a loop on this one. I have my sports brain on. Let's see. So we've got one movie, one album, one food forever. If I can, one movie, you're stuck on an island. You don't want anything too serious. I want a comedy, so I'm going to go with Step Brothers. I think that, I don't know if that's pound for pound the best comedy or the funniest movie out there. It's the one that makes me laugh the hardest when I watch it. So I'm going to go with Step Brothers. Probably need something to keep my spirits up since I'm stuck on an island. I need to get a few laughs in me. So let's go with Step Brothers there. One album, man, again, you want to set the mood. You're stuck on an island. You don't want anything too depressing or, I'm a big Cake fan. Anybody like Cake? I might be dating myself there. I feel like that's a good beach, stuck on an island music, some background music, some Cake would be great. Some of you old heads will appreciate it. If you're younger and you don't know Cake, look them up. Good band. And one food forever. This one's, I might need some clarity on this one. Because if it's one food, are we talking one dish? Or are we talking one food ingredient total? Like say if you could have one dish, I'd say breakfast tacos. Give me breakfast tacos. That's all I can eat. I get the tortilla, the cheese, bacon. I get all the ingredients. Maybe some refried beans on there. I like that. If you haven't tried that, that's a good hack too for a breakfast taco. But if it's those are too many ingredients, because if I'm stuck on an island and I'm getting breakfast tacos, they would either I couldn't make all those ingredients myself, so it'd have to just materialize out of somewhere, maybe some I don't know, whoever's watching me on this island, all of a sudden these tacos just appear. So I'd imagine it would just have to be one food, and if that's the case, it's just steak. Just give me a steak. Can I just have steak, a nice medium rare steak? I feel like I could eat that just about every day. Either steak or eggs. If I could have steak and eggs as my plate, I'd switch out breakfast tacos for some steak and eggs every day. Get some good protein. Got to keep my strength if I'm on an island. I'm probably fighting the wilderness and wild animals. I wouldn't want to ask for any seafood because I'm stuck on an island. Maybe I can get Castaway, Tom Hanks in Castaway, make a spear, go fishing myself, change it up. I don't know. I don't want to be stuck on an island. When am I going to watch football? What am I going to do? Can I switch out the music for a podcast as well too? Some sports podcast? That's how I'd much rather spend my time, stuck on an island. I got to know what's happening on the mainland. That's a good one. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, Don Coryell. Fake Don Coryell. Fake Donnie Coryell. At DONN Coryell on Twitter if you want to go follow our guy. Unlike the real Don Coryell, has a Twitter. This one's from Nate, at Nate_P4. This one is an idea. Yeah, I appreciated this as well. An idea for a series on the channel during the offseason, Pac-12 101. A breakdown of all PAC members with special guests who cover the school so viewers can learn interesting facts about the school, town, and expectations of their athletic programs as new PAC members. I love this idea, Nate. I love it so much, I'm not even going to change the title you suggested. Pac-12 101 coming to you this spring. We'll start doing that. I've already got a few guests in my mind lined up. I jumped on when the Bobcats went to the Pac-12. I jumped on some of these other guys' podcasts for Colorado State, for Washington State. So I've already made some Pac-12 friends. We can bring them on for the Pac-12 101. Love this one, Nate. Great suggestion. Thank you for suggesting it. Especially in the off season, this time of year, you're like, what are we going to do for content? This is great stuff. I appreciate the suggestion. Any suggestion from any of y'all that you have on content, please do not hesitate. I love the feedback. Any suggestion, concerns, comments, hit me with them all the time. They are appreciated, very much appreciated. Our last, and thanks, Nate. Appreciate that, Nate. Good stuff. This one is from TXST Recruiting Watch, at TXT FBR Watch on Twitter. Any updates on the Pac-12 media deal? I kind of already went over that. Hope you don't mind if I gloss over yours after already answering it a bunch. But really the big thing is that lawsuit. April 7th, I believe, is the date. It's in April, I know that, when they start actually going to court and litigating it in front of a judge. So be on the lookout for that one. All right, that looks like it was the last question. I know I put let me see if sometimes some questions get thrown over here. Yes, I'm glad I checked, from my guy, Justin Hopkins. Shout out to Justin Hopkins. JHop40, JHop4040 on Twitter. One of my first bosses in this whole sports media game. Back at Bobcat Report, the Bobcat Report days. Shout out to my guy, Justin. I hope you're a great man. It says, if you're the great Don Coryell, what do you do with TJ if men's basketball goes slightly over 500 and wins one game in the Sun Belt tourney? Wow. How close is that to the example I was just talking about, where I was saying they got to get close to 20 wins and actually do some damage in the tournament? If not, I'm out. This exact situation he laid out, 500 with one game in the tournament, got to move on. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's simply not. Maybe there was a time where that would have been acceptable at Texas State. But the truth is, between 2016 and 2020, this basketball program was doing great. They were winning games. 2015 to 2020, really, they were winning games. Didn't win the Sun Belt Conference tournament ever, but did some damage when they get in there. Sometimes fans were showing up to games. When done right, people show up for the Bobcats. For Bobcats basketball, they will pack Strahan. And so letting it fester the way it is, I'm sure there's been a whole graduating class. Freshmen have come and graduated without seeing Texas State basketball at its prime, at its full form, when fans are actually invested in caring and everything. And it can get back to that. And it needs to get back to that for the Pac-12. So, no, I don't think 500 and one win in the tournament is not acceptable. I mean, I think the floor, the bare minimum is 20 wins. And that's, maybe you can add some tournament wins into that, because it's going to be pretty hard for them they'd have to go on a good 8-game win streak to go ahead in the tournament to get the 20 wins in the regular season. But I think that needs to be the floor for discussion. But yeah, I think we're going to see some moves coming for Texas State basketball, barring something magical, as I was saying earlier. But all right, that'll do it. Wow, an hour and 20 minutes. That last episode was so long. I was like, can't make it this long. It's just going to be some questions, and here I am, hour and 20. But there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. We're in the off season. I'm giving you all the content you can fill. But yes, check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/WinNowOrGetBent. Check us out on your YouTube channel, WinNowOrGetBent, on youtube.com/WinNowOrGetBent. Like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. Check us out on Twitter @WinNowOrGetBent. Check us out on Instagram and TikTok @WNOGB. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment on all the audio platforms. If you're an audio head out there, you're a busy guy on the go, just listening with the headphones in, make sure you stay subscribed so it downloads right to your phone. Big thank you to TGC LLC. Thank you to the wizard, Zachary Webb. An extra special thank you to all of you out there. The 5th anniversary of this pod. So many of you out there have been listening since the beginning, when the audio was terrible, when I didn't have any organization to my segments, when my prep or anything. It's pretty wild listening back to 5 years and hearing how far it's come. I just think about 5 years from now, and how much I hope I cringe listening back to this episode, and I'm like, oh man, I've gotten so much better. We've gotten so much better as a pod with everything that we're doing. But thank you so much to all of you, especially if you've been listening for 5 years or for multiple years, or if you just got here last week. Thank you for tuning in and for allowing us to continue to do this, because otherwise, I'm sitting in a shed in my garage talking to myself. But it's not that weird, because all of you are out there listening, so it's all good. It's all good, and I can't thank you enough for tuning in and allowing me to continue to do this thing that I'm so passionate about, that we're passionate about, my guy Zachary Webb as well. And we're going to bring you some great Texas State content this year and going forward. Inaugural Pac-12 season. Let's get it. Let's get it. But all right, everybody. It's been a great episode. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, win now or get bent.